This one is called Einsatzgruppen. Einsatzgruppen. Why are people standing like that, Mum, so far apart? That is called social distancing, my son. What is that, Mum? What is social distancing? The new normal, son. We haven't had it before, have we? Did they do it when you were a boy, Mum? Social distancing is the answer to a very important question, son. That has been put to the general mass in our day and age. They have been slipped a full and a lubricated length and properly shafted with this one, dear. No, my daughter, they did not do it at all when I was a boy. What question does social distancing answer, Mum? Well, the question is really plain and obvious. It is a blatant and a gasping and an approximate thing, as if the slurping tongue of a diseased voluptuary, young Ivor, was running all over our bodies while they, our bodies, lay into a terminal bondage, Megan. Yet as such, the question is not usually or generally articulated in open and unabashed discourse, despite the universal stain of its morbid and its contagious and contaminating scope. Listen, my girl. People have been asked if they would prefer it if the measure of their health and their vitality be changed and altered and removed from being what it formerly was in the old normal and ceasing to be that now, ceasing to be as it was, namely the human body, as a necessary and universally accepted measure of human health. Health now ceasing to be an original and an authentic property of the human body, and health becoming now instead, in this preferred and novel accepted change, herein bound to the delightful sobriquet, the new normal, an artifact of the parameters and of the imperatives of a strategic marketing objective. Further to this, people have been asked if they would prefer it, if they would prefer to admit to the inferiority of their own potential to love in the obsequious observance of the dominant ideological regime, purposed and designed to obviate and to negate original and direct human experience, love, so to say. And the citizenry have now so adoringly and obediently consented, and in a snivelling, a horrified, fantastic rage, and in a howling, and in a murderous hypocrisy, they have embraced and even clamoured for this outcome in a generally supervening, squalid affirmation of bodily denial and subservient compliance to the removal of their health from the physical and from the human vicinity of their own vital awareness and into the ideological domain. It is a voluntary collapse and capitulation of conscience and of moral integrity in the general mass, which social distancing describes in a naked and in an unfaltering and in a vivid candour. This is so, and we do here very definitely identify the phenomena of social distancing as such. because there is now an altered ethical status of our being that the criminal mass have now concocted for themselves. Hence, these people have rejected their own humanity and vitality as a loathsome and as a detestable burden. Destiny becomes a shame to them, and uncertain realities collapse into certain cowardly fantasies suitable to integration into their incapacitated and crippled awareness. And they like this very much. They feel gratified and relieved in this, and becoming in the altered and suicidal state nothing other than a property or result of an ideological function of marketing. This appetite for social distancing is evidence of their bald, mindless and hopeless abandonment of love, performed in a submission to the superior hypnotic power of the strategic marketing objectives of a new totalitarian televised sexual ecstasy. But Dad, that is a lot for me to get on with. I mean, what are strategic marketing objectives? What does it mean? Well, Petal, the short answer is lust. What then is lust, Mum? Lust, son, is when you're not satisfied with owning dominion over your own body, and you want to have a dominion over the bodies and the lives of others as well, especially in relation to blood, agony, and life and death. It is an unending craving that can only become the more charged and hysterical and violent and destructive the more it is indulged in. It is a principal fantasy of insanity. The people now stand apart from each other because, although their bodies are fit, their minds and their souls are not fit. But they have gone mad, and they have accepted a marketing scheme as a superior replacement and substitute for their own intuition, feelings, and judgment, such which have been abandoned and obliterated in their own self-seeking, interior and terrified and ignorant, lustful and careless criminality. I mean to say that they now admit that, in the face of a full and obvious vigorousness, they admit that they are sick and unclean and contagious and despicable or even criminal. If they even but go to kiss their own mothers up on the cheek, they do not care. They will not kiss their own mothers up on the cheek. They hate their own mothers now, son. But why did they do that, Dad? I want to kiss you up on the cheek. Can I, Mum? They done that because they love and they prefer the idea and the fantasy of asymptomatic transmission, that is to say, of putative marketing hypotheses, developed into the fictional components of a rapist marketing engine. They prefer all that more than their own children, son. They desire to kill even their own children more than they desire to love. So much so that it appears as if they even believe that killing is love. Thus they are terrified. Yes, Philippa, you can kiss me up on the cheek. Why are they terrified, dads? They are terrified because they lack any enthusiasm for life. There is a deficit. They are simply not at all interested in life, and this failure of enthusiasm has inevitably extrapolated into a total failure of any capacity to judgment or to intuition. They have made a mistake, a fatal error. They have allowed their entire souls to be occupied in the appeasement of the animal. And in this they have discharged into themselves an absolute vulnerability, because the animal asks nothing of judgment or of intuition. The faculty has atrophied completely in this mass, in this desperate mass, who are kneeling before the self-appointed yoke which they are driven and whipped to be under. They clamour to be put to death in the name of safety. They scream for the death of agency. They wait and they want safety. They want safety from themselves, because for them, being a corpuscle in an imaginary body is easier than being a living body in an authentic life for them. Not hating is a terrible and an asphyxiating or impossible thing. It is dangerous to them, because love is a state which refers to life, and life is to be detested. Life is to be detested, since life requires a sufficient judgment and a substantial intuition. But they have neglected and capitulated any such into a final oblivion, and hatred is much safer and more convenient wherever judgment has died in the betrayal of the self. Hatred is very easy for the unenthusiastic, for the blind criminal, even though they will not admit to any of it. They cannot. They have not the capacity or the facility for that. They are too confused, terrified and defeated for that. They are happy and relieved to be allowed to merely hate, because they can now represent themselves in daily life with a fidelity and with an honesty not possible before the totalitarian sexual ecstasy, the global marketing orgasm, the anal rape of humanity. Social distancing has very well liberated these people into the new possibility of exhibiting their bloodlust in an ecstasy of hypocrisy and without any shame. They have done so in an explosive and in a furious orgy of self-loathing. The social distancing, the crime of their own ever-diminishing humanity, the death of love. They have chosen it. They are bitten onto it as a terrier onto a rat. Do people think that social distancing is a good idea, Mum or Dad? It sounds wrong to me from what you have said. Is it wrong? I mean, now I'm thinking that one might, in summary, say that there has been a global failure or total obliteration or strangulation of the human aesthetic faculty, and that man is satisfied now to be merely a tongue and an arsehole and a blind murderer languishing up on a bench in a condemned cell of his own fabrication, where harmony, justice and proportion and even love itself are permanently abolished and forever denied. Is it true, Mum? Yes, my daughter boy, this is social distancing. It is the new normal, and it is all true. When will it stop, Mum?